Chevrolet gave us the Trax in 2015 and people weren't exactly impressed. Sales were good, but reviewers kinda tore it apart. The compact crossover is a quickly growing and very competitive segment where close enough just isn't good enough. So for 2017, GM has gone back to give it a bit of a massage in an attempt to woo some more consumers away from rivals like the Mazda CX-3, the Fiat 500X, and the Honda HR-V. So what's new? Well, out here you've got a redesigned front fascia and new headlights as well, more in line with the other small Chevrolets. This hexagonal grille is a lot bigger, and these new projector halogens are much thinner and sleeker, though on the base model they're reflectors instead. Top it all off with a new hood, and this whole front end is a lot flatter and less bulbous than before. Out back, the changes are more subtle. Mostly you're going to notice less cladding down below, but here in the Premier trim, what used to be called the LTZ, these taillights are LEDs. Now, taken as a whole, the Trax used to have a bit of the Chevy HHR vibe to it, but this redesign erases that nearly completely, while still keeping the cute vibe that consumers seem to like so much. Now inside, the changes are much more striking. Gone is this squared off cluster and those aero-inspired vents that honestly just felt out of place. This new dash flows with the outside much better, and it feels like it was actually designed for the car, though you do lose the second storage cubby that used to be up here above the glove compartment. And if you go with the base LS trim, you lose that too for some reason. Now that's a lot worse than it sounds because the Trax doesn't offer a center console. So all the storage you have in here is this under seat storage and 4 cup holders. Actually, it's 3 cup holders and 1 little square bin. Even better than the new dash is the inclusion of standard Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, especially since there's no available navigation system for the 2017 Trax other than OnStar, if you feel like tacking another bill onto your monthly expenses. Now, like I said, there is some great stuff in here, even with the base LS trim, a standard 4G Wi-Fi hotspot, power lumbar, and Chevy MyLink with a 7-inch touchscreen. It's not bad for 22 grand. Now, if you go with the LT, you're going to get the LEDs front and back, cruise, heated mirrors, satellite radio, a 110-volt outlet, and remote engine start, plus aesthetics like silver trim, privacy glass, and upgraded cloth for the upholstery. Now that's 24 out the door, and that's a pretty good deal. Plus, with the LT, you get access to the packages like the Sun and Sound package for an upgraded Bose stereo and a sunroof, the convenience package for keyless entry and ignition, a power driver's seat, and leather and vinyl for the steering wheel and the upholstery. And the driver confidence package, and that one's going to get you the blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic alert and rear parking sensors. But if you add all of that, you're already going to be over 26 grand and just a few $100s short of the $27,000 price on this top tier Premier trim. With this, you also get 18-inch alloys and auto-dimming rear view mirror, plus vinyl upholstery and trim with heated front seats. And the Premier is the only trim where you can get the Driver Confidence 2 package for the lane departure and forward collision warning systems. Now, if you get all of that and all-wheel drive, you're looking at around $28,000. But for some reason here in the Premier trim, they ditched the sunroof and they force you to pay another $900 to put it back in. I mean, that's how you make enemies, Chevy, not customers. But that said, the sunroof really does transform the interior of this thing. You should get it. Okay, enough griping. Let's take it for a spin. Now, there are no changes under the hood this year. That means that every Trax is powered by a turbocharged 1.4-liter 4-cylinder engine, good for 148 pound-feet of torque at 1,850 RPM and 138 horsepower at 4,900 RPM. That's a lot of revving for not a lot of power, and things don't sound exactly pleasant when you get up there. It's not that the Trax is particularly slow. 0 to 60 takes 9 or 10 seconds, depending on if you go with front or all-wheel drive, and that's about average for the segment. But it just doesn't have enough power for hills and highway passing, especially if you have a full load. I mean, the curb weight on this trim is about 3,300 pounds, and if you have a full family, 2 adults, 2 kids, you're talking about adding another 5, 6, or maybe even 700 pounds onto that. 4,000 pounds, I mean, moving that is a big ask for a little 1.4 liter engine. There's just no way around that. And really, that is shown perfectly in the efficiency numbers. Now, delivery here is handled by a smart little 6-speed automatic transmission, which is doing its best with a very difficult job. EPA estimates this at 25 city and 33 highway miles per gallon for 28 combined, but if any of you are able to achieve that with any kind of consistency, I'll buy you lunch. Now, to be fair, that is not solely the Trax's or even Chevrolet's problem. It's the same issue I have with all these little turbocharged 4-cylinder engines. The practical application falls way short of the theoretical potential. It's just real-world driving. They can't deliver what they claim. As usual, fooling the government standards so you can make those numbers, it just turns out to be more important than actually building a good engine. Now, the 18-inch wheels that come on this Premier trim, they look slick, but they can make the ride a bit busy. Combine that with this super light steering and you can get into a little bit of trouble on a bumpy highway. Now, in a parking lot, that light steering is great. I mean, your grandmother could park this thing with no trouble, but at speed, you end up driving like you're in a movie with that constant left, right, left, right, left, right corrections. At least things are spacious in here. At 6'4", I've got plenty of head and leg room, and shorter adults can even spend some time in the back. Now, granted, I'm a bit too tall for a compact as a general rule, so take this into consideration, but my main concern with regard to comfort in here is this B-pillar. It sits right next to my head, which blocks my vision, and it makes reaching out of the car like at a drive-thru or just hanging an elbow like a cool cat nearly impossible. I mean, if you want to be cool driving a car, you got to be able to put your elbow out of the window. That's a rule. I can't do it here. It's unacceptable. Now, the other thing that really bugs me is all the hard plastic in here. I mean, it's just everywhere, every surface. That vibration that you hear throughout this video, that's the door doing that, and we can't stop it. It's all the hard plastic rubbing together. I'm sorry, a vinyl insert, some silver trim, and this one soft touch surface that isn't all that soft, that doesn't do enough to make this Premier in my book. And it's the same on the outside. If you want some body side molding to set yourself apart from the lower trims, that's another $200. This is a top tier trim. It's a couple of pieces of plastic. Just put it on the car. Rear storage stands at 18.7 cubes, and if you drop all the seats, which thankfully do fold flat, you're looking at 48.4. It's good usable space, but it's less than nearly every competitor on the market right now. Where the Trax excels is in safety. Full marks from both the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. I just wish all the safety systems were available for all trims. If you want it and are willing to pay for it, it should be available. Also, drum brakes in the rear with front-wheel drive trims in 2017? Okay.
The original Trax was good, and the 2017 is a definite improvement, but the bottom line is, the competition is just better. There's really no way for me to spin that. I'm not saying don't give it a look. I mean, numbers aren't everything, but you should definitely check out some of the rivals before you sign on the dotted line. Hey, thanks for watching. For full details on the 2017 Chevrolet Trax, just click the link in the description. You can head over to CarGurus.com and read my full review. And for videos of some of those rivals I mentioned, just subscribe to the channel.